Welcome to Shadowlands Ghosts, a place where the ordinary and the unknown collide. I'm your host, Raven Blackwood, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey into the heart of darkness. As we settle in, the warm glow of the setting sun casts long shadows across the walls, and the trees outside whisper secrets to the wind. It's a peaceful evening, the kind that makes you want to curl up with a good book and let the world slow down. But as the night wears on, the shadows seem to grow a little longer, a little darker. The whispers in the trees take on a more sinister tone, and the wind picks up, rustling the leaves with an otherworldly energy. It's as if the very fabric of reality is beginning to unravel, revealing a world that's not quite our own. You see, I've always been drawn to the mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of town, the secrets that hide in the shadows, and the tales that are whispered in hushed tones around campfires. And that's exactly what brings us to our story tonight. Imagine coming home to find a door in your house that wasn't there before. A door that seems to lead to somewhere else. Every time you open it, you're met with a new and terrifying world, each one more horrifying than the last. The door seems to shift and change like a living thing, always leading you further down the rabbit hole. This is the story of the door that shouldn't exist, a journey into the very heart of madness and terror. And I'm not just telling you this story. I'm going to take you with me, step by step, as we explore the dark realms that lie beyond the door. So, if you're ready to join me on this journey into the unknown, be sure to subscribe to Shadowlands Ghosts. You'll become part of a community that's not afraid to face the darkness head-on, and you'll get access to exclusive content that will make your skin crawl. And as we begin our journey, I'll let the lead character take over, guiding you through the twists and turns of this terrifying tale. So, sit back, relax, and try to keep the shadows at bay. But be warned, once you start down this path, there's no turning back. I'd always thought of my home as a sanctuary, a place where I could escape the chaos of the world outside. It was a cozy little house on the outskirts of town, with cream-colored walls and a warm, welcoming porch. My family had lived here for years, and I'd grown up within these walls, exploring every nook and cranny. Or so I thought. As I walked through the front door, I was greeted by the familiar creak of the wooden floorboards and the faint scent of fresh laundry. My wife, Sarah, was busy in the kitchen, whipping up dinner, while our daughter, Emily, was engrossed in her favorite book on the couch. It was a typical evening, the kind that made you feel grateful for the simple things in life. But as I made my way to the living room, I noticed something odd. A door. It was just a plain, white door, but it was in a place where I was certain there hadn't been one before. I could have sworn that the wall had been blank, with just a few family photos and a vase of fresh flowers. Now, there was this door, with a small brass doorknob and a keyhole that seemed to stare at me like an empty eye. At first, I thought it must be some kind of prank. Maybe Sarah or Emily had decided to play a joke on me. But as I turned to ask them about it, I realized that they were both oblivious to the door's presence. They were going about their evening, completely unaware of the strange new addition to our home. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I approached the door. There was something unsettling about it, something that made me feel like I was being watched. I reached out a hand to touch the doorknob, but hesitated. What if this door wasn't just a door? What if it led somewhere, or somewhere else? I pushed the thought aside, telling myself I was being silly. It was just a door after all. But as I turned to join my family, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That this door was more than just a simple entrance. It was a doorway to something else, something that lurked just beyond the edge of our reality. And as I sat down at dinner, trying to push the thought aside, I couldn't help but wonder what lay beyond the door. The days passed, and I tried to ignore the door, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, waiting for me to make a move. I began to notice strange little things around the house. A vase would be moved from one side of the room to the other, or a book would be lying open on the floor. At first, I thought it was just Sarah or Emily being careless, but as the occurrences continued, I started to feel a creeping sense of unease. One night, I woke up to the sound of creaking floorboards outside my bedroom door. I lay in bed, listening as the creaks moved down the hallway, stopping right outside the door. I threw off the covers and approached the door, my heart pounding in my chest. But when I opened it, there was no one there. The hallway was dark and silent, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. I told myself it was just the house settling, but the feeling of being watched only intensified. I started to notice strange noises during the day, too. The sound of whispers in the walls, or the faint rustling of papers. I couldn't pinpoint where the noises were coming from, but they seemed to be coming from all around me. Sarah and Emily seemed oblivious to it all, going about their daily routines as if nothing was out of the ordinary. But I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. And then one night, I saw something that made my blood run cold. I was walking past the door when I saw a piece of paper taped to it. It was a note, written in a handwriting I didn't recognize. The words were simple, but they sent a chill down my spine. Open me. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I ripped the note off the door and crumpled it in my hand. Who could have written this? And what did they want me to open? The door, of course. But why? I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself it was just a prank. But as I looked at the door, I knew I had to investigate further. I had to know what lay beyond that door. I turned to go back to bed, but as I did, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A shadowy figure, standing just beyond the edge of the hallway. I spun around, but there was no one there. And then I heard the whisper. A soft, raspy voice that seemed to come from all around me. Open me, it whispered. Open me, and you'll see. I knew then that I had to open the door. I had to know what was on the other side. But as I reached out to touch the doorknob, I felt a sense of dread wash over me. What if I wasn't ready for what I was about to see? What if I wasn't ready for what was waiting for me on the other side? I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. And then I made my decision. I would open the door. I would face whatever was on the other side. But as I turned the handle and pushed the door open, I knew that I was stepping into a world of terror, a world that would change me forever. As I stood there, frozen in terror, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room that seemed to be shrouded in an otherworldly mist. The air was thick with an eerie, heavy scent that made my stomach churn. I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest, and that's when I saw it. A series of old, dusty photographs hung on the walls, depicting people I had never seen before. But it was the last photograph that made my blood run cold. It was a picture of me, standing in front of the very same door I had just opened. But it was the date stamped on the corner of the photograph that made my mind reel. It was a date that was 20 years in the future. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, my breath knocked out of me. How was this possible? I stumbled backward, my eyes scanning the room for answers, but there were none. That's when I saw the journal, lying open on a dusty old desk. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, detailing every move I had made since I moved into the house. Every conversation I had with Sarah and Emily, every meal I had eaten, every thought I had thought. It was as if someone had been watching me, studying me for years. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead as I realized the truth. The house was not haunted by a ghost or a spirit. It was haunted by something far more sinister. It was haunted by time itself. The door was a portal, a gateway to different dimensions, different timelines. And I had just opened it. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling with the implications. I had unleashed a horror beyond my wildest imagination. I had unleashed a horror that could destroy not just my world, but countless others. I knew then that I had to find a way to close the door, to shut off the portal before it was too late. But as I turned to make my way back to the door, I heard the whisper again. "You'll never close me," it whispered. "You'll never escape." And then the lights went out, plunging me into darkness. I was trapped in a world of terror, with no escape in sight. The door had been opened, and I was about to face the horrors that lay beyond. As I stood in the darkness, I could feel the weight of the horrors that lay beyond the door bearing down on me. The air was thick with an unspeakable malevolence, and I knew that I was running out of time. I had to find a way to close the door, to shut off the portal before it was too late. I stumbled forward, my hands outstretched in front of me, desperate to find something, anything, that could help me. But as I moved, the darkness seemed to shift and writhe around me, like a living thing. I could feel it closing in on me, suffocating me. And then I saw it. A faint, flickering light in the distance. It was the door, I realized, still slightly ajar. I stumbled towards it, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to close it, I had to shut it off. But as I reached out to grab the door handle, I felt a cold, clammy hand wrap around my wrist. I spun around, my eyes wide with terror, and that's when I saw it. A figure, tall and imposing, its face twisted into a grotesque grin. "You'll never close me," it whispered, its voice like a rusty gate. "You'll never escape." I tried to shake off the figure's grip, but it was too strong. It pulled me back into the darkness, and I felt myself being dragged towards the door. As I stumbled through the doorway, I saw a horror beyond my wildest imagination. A world of twisted, nightmarish landscapes, where time itself seemed to be unraveling. I saw versions of myself, infinite versions, each one screaming in terror as they were consumed by the void. And at the center of it all, I saw the figure, its grin growing wider as it pulled me closer. I realized in that moment that I was not just facing a horror, I was facing the very fabric of time itself. The figure pulled me closer, its grip tightening around my wrist, and I felt myself being pulled into the abyss. I screamed until my voice was hoarse, but my cries were drowned out by the sound of my own sanity shattering. And then everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on the floor, my head throbbing with pain. The door was closed, the room was silent, and the photographs were gone. But as I stumbled to my feet, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A new photograph hanging on the wall, depicting me standing in front of the door. But this time, the date stamped on the corner was different. It was a date that was 20 years in the past. I realized in that moment that I had been trapped in a time loop, reliving the same moment over and over again. And I knew that I would never escape, never close the door, never shut off the portal. The horror was not just the figure or the void or the twisted landscapes. The horror was time itself, and I was trapped in its grasp, forever doomed to relive the same moment of terror over and over again. I stood there, frozen in terror, as I stared at the photograph. The date on the corner seemed to mock me, a cruel reminder that I was trapped in a never-ending cycle. I knew that I had to try and break the loop, but how? I had no idea how to escape, no idea how to close the door and shut off the portal. I stumbled through the room, searching for any clue, any hint that might help me. But everything was the same, everything was identical to the last time I had been here. I was stuck in a never-ending loop, reliving the same moment over and over again. And then I saw it. A small note, tucked away in the corner of the room. It was a message scrawled in my own handwriting. "You will never escape," it read. "You will never close the door." I felt a chill run down my spine as I read the words. Was this a message from my past self, a warning that I would never be able to break the loop? Or was it something more sinister, a message from the figure itself, taunting me and laughing at my desperation? I didn't know, but I knew that I had to try. I had to try and close the door, no matter what. I stumbled towards it, my heart pounding in my chest. I reached out and grabbed the handle, and as I did, I felt a sense of déjà vu. I had done this before. I had done this 1,000 times before. But I pushed on, determined to break the loop. I pulled the door open, and as I did, I saw the figure standing in front of me. Its grin was wider than ever, and its eyes seemed to bore into my soul. "You'll never close me," it whispered, its voice like a rusty gate. "You'll never escape." I tried to push past it, but it was too strong. It grabbed my wrist, and I felt myself being pulled back into the darkness. I stumbled through the doorway, and as I did, I saw the same twisted, nightmarish landscapes that I had seen before. But this time, something was different. This time, I saw a glimmer of light in the distance. It was a small, flickering flame, and it seemed to be calling to me. I stumbled towards it, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the flame, I saw that it was a candle, burning brightly in the darkness. And next to it, I saw a piece of paper. It was a note scrawled in my own handwriting. "Close the door," it read. "Close the door and break the loop." I felt a surge of hope, a sense that I might finally be able to escape. I stumbled towards the door, the candle clutched in my hand. I reached out and grabbed the handle, and as I did, I felt a sense of determination. I pulled the door shut, and as I did, I felt the room fall silent. The figure was gone, the photographs were gone, and the door was closed. I was finally free. Or was I? As I stood there, the candle still clutched in my hand, I felt a sense of unease. I knew that I had closed the door, but I also knew that I might not have broken the loop. I might still be trapped, reliving the same moment over and over again. And as I stood there, frozen in uncertainty, I heard a faint whisper in my ear. "You'll never escape," it said. "You'll never close the door." I spun around, but there was no one there. The whisper seemed to come from all around me, echoing off the walls. I knew then that I was doomed to relive the same moment of terror over and over again. And as the darkness closed in around me, I screamed. Epilogue, the endless cycle. The candle's flame still flickered in my hand as I stood there, frozen in uncertainty. The whispers seemed to come from all around me, echoing off the walls. I knew then that I was doomed to relive the same moment of terror, over and over again. As the darkness closed in around me, I felt a sense of déjà vu. I had done this before. I had done this 1,000 times before. The photograph, the note, the figure's twisted grin. It was all just a part of the never-ending cycle. I tried to shake off the feeling, to convince myself that I had finally broken the loop. But as I looked around the room, I saw that everything was still the same. The photographs were still on the wall, the note was still on the table, and the door was still closed. I realized then that I might never truly be free. The loop might be infinite, and I might be trapped forever. The thought sent a chill down my spine, and I felt my heart racing with fear. As I stood there, the candle's flame began to flicker and dance. I felt a sense of unease, as if the very fabric of reality was beginning to unravel. And then I saw it, a small, almost imperceptible crack in the wall. It was a tiny fissure, barely visible to the naked eye. But as I watched, it began to grow, spreading like a stain across the surface of the wall. I knew then that the loop was far from broken. In fact, it might just be beginning. The crack grew larger and larger until it became a gaping hole. And as I peered into the void, I saw the figure standing on the other side. Its grin was wider than ever, and its eyes seemed to bore into my soul. "You'll never escape," it whispered, its voice like a rusty gate. "You'll never close the door." I tried to step back, but my feet seemed rooted to the spot. The figure began to laugh, its voice growing louder and louder until it became a deafening roar. And as I stood there, frozen in terror, I knew that I was doomed to relive the same moment of horror over and over again. The last thing I saw was the photograph still clutched in my hand. The date on the corner seemed to mock me, a cruel reminder that I was trapped in a never-ending cycle. And as the darkness closed in around me, I screamed. The scream was still echoing in my mind as I opened my eyes, gasping for air. I was lying on the floor, the candle still clutched in my hand. The room was silent, the photographs were gone, and the door was closed. But as I looked around, I saw something that made my blood run cold. On the wall, in letters that seemed to be written in my own handwriting, was a single phrase: "The loop begins again." And as I read the words, I knew that I was doomed. Doomed to relive the same moment of terror, over and over again. Forever trapped in the endless cycle, with no escape in sight. Wow, we've reached the end of this haunting tale, and I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for joining me on this journey. Your engagement, your comments, and your enthusiasm have made this experience truly unforgettable. As we close this chapter, I want to acknowledge the dedication and passion that has gone into creating this content for you. From the writers to the editors, to the entire production team, everyone has worked tirelessly to bring you the best possible storytelling experience. And now, I want to ask for your continued support. If you've enjoyed this series, if you've been on the edge of your seat, if you've been fascinated by the twists and turns, then I invite you to subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll not only be getting access to more thrilling content, but you'll also be helping us to continue pushing the boundaries of storytelling. Your subscription means the world to us, and we promise to keep delivering the highest quality content that will keep you entertained, engaged, and eager for more. So, don't wait any longer. Hit that subscribe button now and join our community of fellow storytellers and enthusiasts. As we bid farewell to this series, I want to leave you with a sense of excitement and anticipation for what's to come. We have many more stories to tell, many more worlds to explore, and many more thrills to share with you. And we can't wait to have you along for the ride. So, thank you again for watching, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next adventure. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's keep the storytelling magic alive. Subscribe now and join the journey. Insert link.